Hi there everyone, welcome back to my channel. Now, we have Opus 6 fully released out and in the wild and it's doing its thing. And I wanted to kind of jump on the set as soon as it came out so that I could bring you guys a deck list that you guys can get straight stuck into. And I did actually mention this in my previous video, which was 10 different deck ideas that you guys can go and experiment with for yourself. But I wanted to kind of build a Scion deck because it's really easy to build for new players. But this is more like, this is way more than a starter deck evolved. This is going to involve everything that I can physically throw at it so that we can make Scions the best it can possibly be. Now, I think the Scions have really improved with Opus 6, and that's primarily on the back of gaining 2 more cards. But without kind of going on and waffling too much, we're going to get straight into the deck list so that you guys can try this deck out for yourself. So now that you can see the deck list, the first thing you'll note is that we're going to try and run at least some semblance of every available Scion that there is in the game. And the reason that we're going to do that is for basically every reason in the deck that's possible. All of the Scions kind of benefit each other. I mean, the primary kind of forward that you're going to be using is going to be Ida, although Ida being as powerful as she can get, you know, when you've got everything out, when you have Ida, Papalymo, well, Ida's a 2k, so you get Papalymo, Y'shtola, Urianger, Thancred, Kryl, Minfilia, Alize, and Alphinaud. You can get her up to like 16 to 18,000 power and demolishing things as she attacks. And so she gets really scary. But now that we have Y'shtola as well, the deck gets a very sorely needed secondary like attack force, and Y'shtola is most certainly a force to be reckoned with. You know, if you can get five Scions out, one of which being Ida, preferably another one being Papalymo to make Ida stronger, and Y'shtola being a 6th, you end up attacking so hard, it's ridiculous. If you can get, I mean, one of the things that I will mention with this deck is that it is so important for you to get Alize down as quickly as you can, because all of your forwards having haste, like, there aren't many forwards in this deck that aren't Scion of the 7th Dawn, so therefore Alize just really benefits your entire game plan. So you definitely want to run 3 of her. But we'll go into the backups in a little while. But as I said, you know, you want to use the fullest of every Scion that you can. So you have Ida and Y'shtola being your massive attack force. Thancred is in here, but there's only 2 of him, primarily because while Thancred isn't bad as such, he doesn't actually kind of forward the game in any way. But him being a 9,000 power guy that's above the curve and being slightly harder to remove than others, like Ice is going to have more difficulty with him, like a Doom Train isn't going to be able to kill him, a Glacial Labolus isn't going to kill him alone. You know, there's lots of nice little things that make it so that Thancred is quite sticky on the board, and that's nice because you obviously want as many different Scions as you can possibly get. And then Urianger is kind of like a techie play more than anything. We're going to run 3 of him because he's a Scion more than anything, but you have to remember this isn't actually a monster deck. So Urianger is kind of pulling monsters out of the break zone is useful, but you don't want to base your entire game plan around it. Now, the reason that we're going to go over the monsters now quickly more than anything, the reason that we've gone with Leyak, and despite the fact that he's off color, Urianger doesn't specify the color that he needs to pull things out of the break zone with, so therefore you can run off color stuff. And I think that Leyak is probably one of the stronger monsters in an offensively geared deck at the moment, purely because it stops Ice from absolutely wrecking you. It means that if they've dull and froze you on board, you can, you know, activate everything when they attack you, and it means that you can draw the extra card so that if they've gotten a bit of discard beforehand, it doesn't sting quite so hard. I've put in a Black Knight. This could easily be changed over for any Lightning or Earth, really. Lightning preferably monster, purely because I wanted something that I could literally discard to pay for Urianger and then him pull it straight back out. So as long as you've got another Scion available, you'll always be able to pull back Black Knight and you don't really have to worry about paying anything extra into it. Dragon would work perfectly well here as well. But, you know, I wanted to have a little bit of removal that came from Urianger that he could pay for with himself, and or could be paid for to use for him, to pay for him. You know what I mean. But, you know, there's loads of different options. I just felt that Leyak, you know, being something that you could discard early to get down a backup, like Joesephyr or Minfilia, would be really useful because you can then pull it straight back with Urianger later. And then we've got Papalymo, who is obviously the searcher for Ida, and he is mostly sitting there to sit on the sidelines while Ida goes and does her thing. And then, so therefore you've got like a plethora of different options when it comes to the Scions themselves. And then we also have Wall in the deck. Wall, like, is absolutely fantastic in this deck. I mean, he's fantastic in every deck, but thing to note with him is that you'll actually make use of his deal a dull forward 3000 damage option, because Ida might not have enough power to finish something off. So therefore you can kind of, or might to kill something alone, so you could use Wall to give her, say, 2000 power and then deal 3000 damage to something, and then the 2k power that Ida gets then translates into damage when she attacks, and then you're going to be able to wipe out pretty much anything with those two together. And then not having EX burst hit you is obviously a really, really strong choice. I went with 2 copies of Ammon in this deck purely because I felt that, you know, with a lot of the stuff kind of relying on things being dull, and you want things to be able to not get in Ida and Ishtola's way when you're attacking, I thought that it was a really, really good shout. It's also a really good defensive play as well, so like you can keep it up during your opponent's turn and then it's going to make them less likely to attack you, kind of in line with the Liaka Ianjay thing that we have going as well. So you can have that little bit of defense while you're still pressing your advantage. And then I've gone with 2 copies of Orlando because, I mean, one of the monsters that you could pick for this deck is Cactuar, basically because then you can allow yourself a little bit more damage, but I felt that because Y'shtola deals things a lot of damage, Alphanor deals things tiny bits of damage, Ida can deal things damage whenever she wants, really. There's a lot of things that deal little chips amount of damage, so I thought that Orlando, being a boss monster as such, or not really a boss monster, but just a really effective tech play that's removal and then a massive body at the end of it, could benefit this deck greatly. And then finally I've gone with a single copy of Estinian because you are ramping your backups anyway. You know, I figured that because you have like Lewis Swar searching out the other two, Ali's, you want to make sure you get as many backups as you can quickly, and I've made sure with the backups that most of the backups that aren't Scions themselves break themselves so that they can make room for a Scion later, because what you don't want with a deck like this is to clog your backups with, you know, things like Shantotto, which depresses me that I've not put her in here. But I mean, you could run her, there is no reason why you couldn't, but my reasoning behind not running it is because obviously I'm trying to get as much advantage down as quickly as possible, therefore I don't really want to remove my own guys. And then because backup space is so premium in this deck, because you want all 4 out of your 5 to be Scions, you've only got 1 slot left. So you have to be really careful, and that slot might have been taken up by Lewis Swar, which is why I'm only running 1 of him. So you just have to be careful how many backups you're running in order to get that lot down. But I figured that Estinian could be a really good kind of surprise play as a one-off. I actually quite like only running 1 Estinian anyway, because I think that him being a 5 CP forward that doesn't actually do anything when he comes into play, it's something that once he gets his momentum swinging, he's absolutely terrifying, but he doesn't actually impact the board straight away. Now that we're going into the backups, as I said with the forwards, basically you want to make sure that every Scion you have available to you is in the deck at least somewhere. So we have Minfilia, who is your searcher for pretty much every Scion in your deck. You have Kryl, who, while the ability isn't all that useful usually, the fact that she's a 2 CP Earth Scion is extremely beneficial to the deck, but the ability does give you a little bit of defense against monster decks that have a tendency to run Valor, and therefore there is a reason to run Kryl. You know, you're running her for her name and her job, but the fact that she has an ability that can still come in handy is nice. And then Alize, as I've said, you want to make sure you get her down as soon as you physically can, because giving your guys haste in this deck is imperative, and making sure that you're able to just get that swing really quickly is really important. So Alize is really important, and therefore Alphanord is less important, but we've given him a little bit more to do in this deck by having things like Orlando and then Black Mage, which is one of the other backups that I run in here for the same reason as Orlando, just so that you dealing chip damage to damage forwards kind of translates into something bigger later. So I thought that, you know, Black Mage can break itself when need be, and if you've not got Alphanord out yet, then you're probably going to have space for him at least. So therefore, you're always going to be able to activate Black Mage unless your opponent has a backup Minwu out, which doesn't really see that much play anymore anyway, so it's not something I think you need to worry about. Monk similarly has a ability that's just very, very good. Earth has often run Monk. There's a lot of nice kind of 2 CP Earth backups in Opus 6 actually, but I think that with this case, being 3000 power and brave on Ida specifically increases the damage that she deals and increases kind of the just general effectiveness of your deck. You could even use it on Papalimo if you wanted to, just so that you're getting a little bit of extra damage in. And then a Miner I feel is really, really important, just so that you're able to pull back kind of reused Minfilias. And the ability to pull back dead Eaters and Ishtola, or Y'ashtolas is really, really important as well. I have not chosen to run a copy of the Legendary Minfilia from this set, purely because I didn't want to run too many high-end backups, and I feel in this particular deck, the 4 CP Minfilia is that much more important. So if you get the 6 drop first, you're not going to want to play it. So you could run it in here, and you just discard it early, and you could pick it back up with a Minor or something like that later. But I kind of wanted to focus on the early game in this deck, and make sure that any late game plays I make are pushing me to win the game and not pushing for consistency. So that's why Legendary Minfilia is not in this deck. As I said with monsters, they are all in here, or the 3 that we have in here are purely to benefit Urianger and not a lot else, but Liak does give you a little bit more of an edge against ice. And then going into summons, summons are a little bit tricky in this deck because there's a lot of good options that you could have. I originally wanted to play 7 CP Odin in here because I felt that because you have decent EX bursts in Papalymo and Ida already, being able to capitalize on that by way of playing things like Odin I thought would be really, really cool, because then you're not having to throw things in the way and not have to worry about your Scions going away after you've played them. But you can't really fit them all in. Like, I felt the Hecatonka made a lot of sense. I've now remembered how you pronounce that correctly, by the way, so don't come for me for my pronunciation on Hecatonka. Then, you know, it's something that's just really useful in most Earth decks, and because Ida gets so big so quickly, you can really benefit from it. And then, you know, I thought that 1 copy of Titan would be really useful, mostly as an EX burst. I thought that, you know, it's nice that it has that, but it's also a one-sided fight, and not many of your forwards aren't going to be able to tackle something, particularly if you have Wall on the board. You know, Thancred will be able to get rid of things, Y'ashtola will be able to get rid of things, Ida's most certainly going to be able to get rid of things. It's just a really, really nice package of Earth summons that you've got there. And then finishing up the summons, I felt that Cockatrice was really nice, basically for the same reason as Ammon in this deck. Like, if you can make it so something isn't able to block you, then you can get something out of the way so that you can then attack with your Ida and Y'ashtolas, so that you can end up killing things that are in your way otherwise. And similarly, it's nice as an EX burst. If your opponent's coming at you too fast and has multiple forwards out, you can just go, okay, this one can hit me, but this one doesn't. And that's just quite a nice little extra. Ramuh, I just think is a great card, honestly. I think that it just does so much work. Being able to give your Ammons haste is probably the only target you're going to use this on in terms of the 4th option to give your lightning forward haste, but being able to deal an active forward 7,000 damage, you could combine that with Alpha Nord, and that's going to make that 9, because you're assuming of course you have another Scion on the board. You also get like dulling forwards, and it giving you a little bit of extra monster hate is always great. Like, you know, with the monsters, I also, as I think I said earlier, Black Knight could be switched over for Dragon if monsters are something you're particularly scared of. Just bear in mind, obviously, that you have to pay extra into Dragon, whereas you don't with Black Knight. And I kind of wanted the ease of not having to worry about it. And it's just like, oh, my opponent's playing a forward. It's still going to kill a Genesis. It's still going to kill a Lock. It's still, you know, yes, they're going to get their come into play effects, but they would have gotten those anyway. There aren't many cards in the game that can stop stuff like that. So I figured that's something that I can have on the side while Urianger is coming in. And then if Urianger dies, then the chances are the Black Knight is probably going to have been used at some point, so that I could play another Urianger and pull it back. And that was my reasoning behind that. As I said, the deck plan with it, or the game plan with this deck is quite simple, really. You just want to slam down as many Scions as you possibly can, as quickly as you can. Obviously, don't overextend, because then otherwise a deck like Ice is going to eat you up. But you want to make sure you get Alize as quickly as possible, and you want to try and get Minfilia as quickly as possible to set up your searching chain. So Minfilia searching Papalymo, searching Ida is really, really good, because it's like, that's 2 Scions before the Idas even come down. Don't play your Idas too early, because you want her to kind of be as powerful as she can be and as much value as she can be. So try not to use Ida as a Scion for other abilities, unless of course that Scion happens to be Y'ashtola. Then if she's if Y'ashtola is like your 6th Scion and another one is Ida, your forwards are going to be wrecking face before your opponent even gets a chance to flinch. You know, if you've got a Wall, an Ishtola, or a Y'ashtola, and an Ida down, and they're all attacking, like, your offensive force is extremely potent. But the one thing I will note is that, you know, while you can build this deck to have a better late game if you wanted to, by way of things like Legendary Minfilia, I chose to try and concentrate as heavily on the early game as I possibly could, because I want that rush down, because I don't want Ice to get to its late game where it's starting to bin my cards or mill me or anything like that. I don't want Lightning making use of Zemus or anything like that. I want to just like hit them hard and hit them fast. And I think that given that this deck actually is constructed primarily from a starter deck, I think you can do a lot of work in a lot of tournaments with a deck like this. So that's it for this video. I am actually going to be doing a few more deck lists on various things from Opus 6. One thing I did want to note actually is for anyone who came down and visited me during Hyper Japan in London last week, I'm very, very much appreciative of it. It was my first kind of event working alongside Square Enix and trying to, you know, promote the game properly, and it was great, great fun. I'll be doing another one next week actually at MCN in Manchester, so if you happen to be down there, then feel free to come and say hello at the Square Enix booth. And that's pretty much it, so thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you'd like to support the channel further, then I'll leave a link in the description box to my Patreon page. Very, very great thanks to everyone who's supporting me on that so far, and that's pretty much everything from me. So thanks again, and I'll see you soon. Bye!